Well, I thought it was a terrific game, especially first half. I was really surprised with Tottenham coming out the way they did, going toe for toe. They tried to play three up against the back three of Chelsea and caused them a few problems. But ultimately, it was a dominant, professional display from Chelsea, full of quality, full of strength, full of resilience. I like the way that they adapted quickly, especially from the manager at half-time making that change from a 3-4-3 to a 3-5-2, which completely flipped the game, bringing off Mason Mount, proactive rather than reactive. But yeah, Tottenham had a go. I always thought that was risky doing that. I thought playing three high against a team of Chelsea's quality, it was only a matter of time before they worked out. And I have to say, the back three of Chelsea defensively, I mean, people think Thiago Silva's nearing the end. Well,
Yeah.
don't worry about him. Physically perfect, wisdom, knows when to step in front, knows when to drop off. I thought the dominance of Chelsea as the game wore on was quite scary.
Yeah, but Danny, it was a chastening second half, though, wasn't it, for Tottenham? Let's face it. I mean, Souness and Keane absolutely offloaded on Tottenham, and people like Kane and people like Eric Dyer not closing down. I mean, what happened to Tottenham, and what is happening to Tottenham now?
Well, sometimes you just have to hold your hands up when the quality's so much better. I think what you're talking about there is work ethic. You're talking about commitment to the cause, but sometimes when you're played around by such quality and they've got too much nous for you, you do look like you're chasing shadows. I don't think it was a lack of effort from Tottenham. I just think it was a complete lack of quality. They come up against a side who are tactically more astute, have technically better, and just showed they were a million miles away. I mean, Chelsea looked like the real deal. Adaptability in football is key. And great players adapt, and great managers do, and they've got both. They look like a real outfit, don't they? I mean, the quality on the bench as well is nothing short of remarkable.
Yeah,
I think it's ominous. I mean, it's an ominous start to the season from Chelsea because they've not had an easy start. I mean, they've gone away to Liverpool, they've played Arsenal and Tottenham, and they're still sitting at the top with Liverpool and United. So I think it's going to be a fascinating season watching this Chelsea side evolve.
exactly. Well, as they evolve, Simon, we're not entirely sure in what direction Tottenham are going to go. I mean, it's quite a crunch time for them, isn't it? I mean, Danny said in his column at the weekend, Spurs can no longer be considered a Big Six club.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because he was compressing it down to being the top four again and talking about the top four, weren't you, Danny, in your article?
Yeah.
And that's really, the Big Six was an argument being made by other clubs to include themselves at the top table for football finances rather than necessarily include themselves at the top table for football achievement.
Yeah.
And it's always been the top four, isn't it? It's always been the top four ever since the evolution of the Champions League. And it got expanded because a couple of other clubs wanted to get at the top table of finances. Tottenham are going through a period of change, aren't they? And Danny's assessment of the game would probably be my assessment if I was able to put it as eloquently as he does, because he's a former player. But they're a better side, Chelsea. They're in a better state of affairs. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Tottenham winning the first three games, and obviously they come unwound at Crystal Palace, and they came unwound in a fashion that you wouldn't have expected against Palace, and they've come up against a side that are just far better than they are in probably every position right now. From the centre forward, and I know we had this discussion on Friday about the comparing and contrasting of Romelu Lukaku and Harry Kane and what's happening to those two respective players. Well, they're playing in two very different sides. And Lukaku, I watched him during the game. I don't know. I mean, he's demanding of the ball, and his remonstrations when he didn't get it because he was absolutely desperate to get a goal, to me, smacked of someone that might have some challenges with team spirit further down the line. But Danny can perhaps talk about that better than I can. About his desire to score goals is one thing great for the team, but another thing, castigating people when he doesn't get exactly what he wants might not build team morale. But Chelsea are just an outstanding side.
Yeah.
And you know, we spoke about it at the beginning of the season. My view is whoever finishes in front of them will win the league, and I'm not sure anyone will. But what you've got is a very balanced side, a very good football manager that knows what to do and when to do it, and knows how to change it. And what you had was a potentially evenly balanced first half, and then Chelsea got out into different gear, and Spurs couldn't go with them.
Do you fear for Tottenham, though, Danny? 3-0 defeat at Palace, followed by a 3-0 home defeat to Chelsea. Next up in the Premier League, Arsenal away.
Well, I don't fear for them because I don't think they were ever in the equation for top four. I mean, they're certainly not going to get relegated. It's about how their season pans out and the style of football that the fans get to see. ultimately they are a million miles away from the big boys of Chelsea, Liverpool and City. So I don't think top four is realistic. So I've got no fear for them, but I worry that their level of performance might get to a point that gets the Tottenham faithful frustrated again. Because generally, when you look at Nuno's philosophy and the way he managed Wolves, I mean, did very well, by the way. This isn't a huge criticism because you have to do what you think's right at the club you're at. But he's a pragmatist. You know, he's a defensive-minded coach. And don't get me wrong, most of my success in my career was under defensive-minded coaches, so this isn't a big criticism of him, but he's walked through the door at Tottenham where one of the biggest arguments against Mourinho was the fact he was too pragmatic and negative. So yesterday he tried to go on the front foot and spin it on its head a little bit, but you do that against a team with better quality, you generally get done. So it's going to be interesting to see how their style evolves rather than the results, because are they competitive for the top four? No. So what's the best they can do? Europa League.
But you think is when you look at that, Sammy, Kane played at Palace and he played yesterday. Yeah. What's the point? You know, he stayed. So so why has he stayed? He stayed, hopefully, to be part of something that's going to start happening for Tottenham and a winning Tottenham team.
Stayed because he was told to stay, and the team that were supposedly going to buy him didn't want to ante up the money. Going to your point about Nuno Espirito Santo and the tag that he's got of being a pragmatic manager, if that indeed is his mindset and his default setting, why then did he play an offensive lineup to go toe-to-toe with Chelsea in the first half? If he wanted to if his mindset is to be defensively robust and strong and pragmatic, isn't it a case, Danny, that people get a tag and really the resource that they had made them pragmatic, made them defensively minded? When they've got a different resource, then maybe that mindset would change.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I mean, maybe he's toying with that idea as he's getting into the job. I think after yesterday, he'll have seen some things in the first half hour where he was pleased with the way they got on board with it, but maybe it was the wrong game to do it in, because you're going to get picked off if you try and do that against. I mean, they beat City by being pragmatic. They beat City by being very, very hard to beat and play on the counter. So he probably thought, I don't want to be predictable, and everyone else has fallen by the wayside against this Chelsea side, so we're going to go after them and give them a different problem. I mean, Villa gave them a few problems, didn't they, trying to press them?
But Nuno's got a few problems if they lose at Arsenal, has he not, Danny? And if they lose in a similar fashion with a similar scoreline?
Well, the problem he's got is the fans becoming more frustrated and makes his job more difficult. I don't think losing the game is going to affect their season, because their season is going to be based on a cup run or winning a cup competition. It's not going to be based on being competitive for the top four. So I think his biggest problem is keeping the fans on board at the moment and getting Harry Kane scoring goals again. But I don't worry about that side of it. I think Kane will be fine.